Okay, here we go. Get started, everyone. Thank you so much for being here for this presentation on how to invest for immigrants. Starting with a little music to get us comfortable. I know this is a topic that can be really intimidating and scary to think about. So if you're here listening live or on the replay, like props to you for taking some time to learn more about this topic that's so important. And I will go ahead and jump in and get started on the presentation. So we're going to be talking about, again, investing. We're going to talk about what is investing, how does it work, some of the common fears with investing, how you can get started. But I want to start us off with some just reminders to make sure you get the most out of this session tonight is to really make some space to concentrate because I'm going to give a lot of valuable information here. Whenever I do webinars, even if they're free, make sure that you all are getting, thousands of dollars of value here. So take some notes, remove any distractions if you have. So, put your phone away, right? Try to get to a quiet space if you can. And we're going to have some special bonus offers at the end that are only available for folks who participate in this webinar. So make sure to stay for the end. For those of you who are new to our community, I'd love to introduce myself and tell you a little bit about Immigrant Finance. So my name is Adina Applebaum. I am an immigration attorney. I'm also an accredited financial counselor and a financial and business coach. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Immigrant Finance, which I've co-founded with my husband, Mauricio Castillo-Ferry. He is a proud immigrant from Ecuador. His background's in operations, human resources, international relations. And we really came into this topic of finances for immigrants through our personal experience. When he immigrated here over 10 years ago now, we struggled a lot with finances and money. And at the time, I was studying to be an immigration lawyer. I was studying at one of the best law schools in the country, Georgetown, for immigration law, some of the best professors, and no one could tell me whether my husband was allowed to have a bank account, credit card, invest, get health insurance, buy property, right, prepare for retirement as an immigrant. And I started researching all of the personal finance books and blogs and podcasts, and there was nothing out there on this topic. So we became super passionate about this, right? Through our own experience, really struggling. We felt super alone, right? Going through this and not having access to information. And we basically spent the past 10 years building expertise and resources in this area to support people so that others don't have to go through this alone. And a little bit more about us. So we actually met in Ecuador. And yeah, it's a whole immigration love story that had finance as a big part of it, and figuring out how to make it all work. Just a little bit about us. You can see in the middle, we love to travel. It's a picture of us at the airport. Although we definitely get to travel less now that we have a toddler. You can see that's us with our daughter in that picture on the right. She's older now, but yeah, she's the best. She runs the house. We call her La Chiquita, and we just basically, it's all for her. So yeah, it really motivates us to be thinking about her with our finances, because we also know a lot of the folks in our community, they're not just thinking about finances and investing for themselves. Most people in our community are super family oriented, and they are thinking about this because they want to support their loved ones. They want to build generational wealth for their children, right? They want to be able to support their parents in retirement. So we really, resonate with that. And we want you all to know we're a family business, right? And we really have similar values here. A little bit about some of our honors and awards, just to give you a sense of the reach we've had with Immigrant Finance. So we've been featured in Forbes, the New York Times, various media outlets. Our curriculum in our signature program, Immigrant Finance School, has been positively reviewed by the Association for Financial Counseling and Planning Education, which is a certification body for personal finance professionals. We were awarded the 11th annual Plutus Award finalist for best personal finance content for underserved communities, the Strategic Impact Fund Scholarship for accredited financial counseling, and I am often a keynote speaker on financial topics at various financial conferences and events, highlighting this issue of finances for immigrants. To give you a little bit of an idea of our mission behind Immigrant Finance and what we do, it's really to help the world's future leaders liberate themselves from societal barriers through financial, business, mindset, and leadership education, so that together we can build a more welcoming world. So this is what drives us. We very much view the immigrant community and family members of immigrants as the world's future leaders. If you look at the history of the US, the economy and innovation has always been driven by immigrants, right? Immigrants have built this country, and in our opinion, almost everything great about it, right? From the food to the culture, etc. And even if you look at the top 500 Fortune companies, which are the top companies in the US, over 50% of them have actually been founded by immigrants or children of immigrants. So, in addition to the social justice mission we have to be empowering this community with finances, we also see you all as leaders, and leaders who are facing this unnecessary barrier when it comes to finances and the intersection of immigration law and how complicated and inaccessible it is. So that's why we apply financial business mindset and leadership education to help you all and together build a more welcoming world where we can hopefully have better immigration laws and a better system as more immigrants in the community build wealth and build financial power, because we know at the end of the day, that's how laws change in this country, right? Is who has money. So that's a little bit about what drives us. And to get started with this topic of how to actually invest as an immigrant, first, let's clear up one really important question we get all the time that there's a lot of confusion about, a lot of misinformation about, is whether immigrants can even invest in the first place. And the answer is yes. We're so happy to tell you yes, 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 yes. Even if you're undocumented, you can invest. You do need to have, though, what's called an individual taxpayer identification number, or ITIN. ITIN is the acronym. That is what you would need if you don't have a social security number to invest. But if you have the ITIN number, you can absolutely invest. So we have never been able to not help someone open an investment account as long as they have an ITIN. We've worked with over 150 immigrant families at this point to help them get started with investing. And we've never had an issue getting someone's account open. We work with a lot of people who have been trying for years to get their accounts open with an ITIN and been rejected because there's often a lot of complex immigration related questions in the application. That's what we're here to support with. That's what we specialize in. We use my background as an immigration attorney and understanding that intersection of the immigration system and the financial system to guide our students so they can get their accounts open. But also way beyond that, how to actually be a confident investor and invest on your own and know what you're doing for the rest of your life so that you don't have to pay a financial counselor or planner to manage your investments for you, but you can do it yourself. We're all about empowering you all. And so those of you who don't have a social security number and maybe don't have an ITIN yet, just to share a little bit more about that so that you can hopefully feel more comfortable about this, I want to tell you about how to actually get the ITIN. First of all, there's a great blog we have on our website at immigrantfinance.com/ITIN, where you can read more about applying for an ITIN, but it's basically a one-page form. You can see a little picture there on the left called W-7 that you file with a tax filing when you pay annual taxes to the IRS, which is the Internal Revenue Service. That's the tax agency in the US. And so this is how there are millions of undocumented immigrants who are paying taxes every year, right? And not having any immigration problems because of that, because there are privacy protections and they're able to get this ITIN number to participate in the financial system, in the tax system, which then allows them to have a number they can use as an alternative to social security number. So if you have an ITIN, you can open a bank account, you can open a credit card, you can get a mortgage loan, and you can invest, right? It's really opens all the doors. You can also have a business, right? So there's nothing that you cannot do financially or business-wise, right? As long as you have an ITIN. So that's one reason I also love finances and financial counseling for immigrants, because unlike in my immigration law work, where, as we all know, the laws are so harsh and so violent and dehumanizing, and there's often not a lot we can do to help people. In the finance world, you can do everything. Like, the doors are open. It's just about learning how to navigate it, right? But there's again, nothing you can't do, which is super exciting. And then I have a little picture here of a law called 26 US Code 6103. This is the law that makes it safe to get an ITIN number with the IRS. And I want to put this up here because I know a lot of folks will be like, well, why would I voluntarily give my information to the government, right? That, that could put me at risk. And so what this law does is it actually is a privacy protection law, and it requires the IRS to keep your information private and not share it with anyone else, including other agencies. So they cannot share your information with ICE, for example, the Immigration Enforcement Agency. The only exception to that is if someone has a criminal, like fraud related offense that involves taxes, then it would be relevant. There would be an exception. Otherwise, that information is not getting shared. And I can tell you, I've spoken to the horse's mouth. I've spoken to the IRS about this multiple times. They've confirmed it for me. They've told me they can't even talk to their colleagues in the IRS about people's information. They're only allowed to talk to their supervisor. If you want to learn more about this, on our YouTube channel, we have a great talk from the IRS that they spoke to the immigrant finance community all about this. Would recommend checking it out, and let me know if you want to see the link. So hopefully that gives some reassurance about getting the ITIN number and using this to open the gateways to be able to be investing and participating in the financial system. Next up, let's clear up another thing. What is investing, right? Because this is a term people use differently, and I like to make it really clear what I'm talking about here, right? So there's multiple different types of investing. Generally, investing is anything where like your money's growing, right? You're participating in this stream of expansion and growth where you can build wealth, and there's lots of ways to do that. Tonight, we're specifically focusing on investing in the stock market as a form of investing. So that's one type, but there's also things like investing in real estate, investing in a business, whether it's your own business or someone else's business, right? There's a lot of options here. Generally, I want to note, if you look at wealthy Americans historically in the US, millionaires, and so most of them have done a combination of these three things, right? They're doing investing in the stock market, they're buying properties, and they're owning businesses or investing in other businesses. So we really want to focus on that in this idea of building wealth, of how can we participate in each of these three things to ride that wave of wealth building. I do want to note too that I know a lot of people we speak to in the community are really interested in cryptocurrency as a form of investing. Just want to note that is not something personally that we focus on for various reasons. The main one being it's just a lot riskier than traditional stock market investing. Hasn't been around long enough to really see historically the returns. And for me, when I'm investing for my retirement, for my children, I want something that's going to be safe, that I know, for the past 100 years has been growing. Whereas we just can't get those guarantees with crypto. We've actually seen in recent years that there's been a lot of really significant crashes in that space. So I always recommend at least start with building a foundation of investing in the traditional stock market that we know works. And then you can always, once you get established with that, like add on stuff to be more advanced and take on some risk in other areas too. All right, next I want to talk about what are the problems that happen when you're not investing, right? This is important to understand to really get why it's so important to invest and why you should feel motivated to go figure it out and get started, right? Even if it is intimidating, even if it's scary, even if it feels like you have to learn a whole nother language or it's extremely complicated, which by the way, it's not. It's actually a lot more simpler than it sounds. They just make it sound really complicated. I have conspiracy theories why, I think it's so people think they have to pay a financial planner to manage their investments for them the rest of their life and give them a lot of their money when you could just learn it on your own. But anyway, I digress. That's a whole side note. So yeah, let's talk about what some of the problems are. I'm going to talk about the top 5 problems that I see with folks who are not investing. So number 1, trading time for money, not having passive income streams. So when you're not participating in investing, any kind of investing we talked about, right? Especially not stock market investing, the way you make money is usually very limited to trading time for money, which means like for every dollar you make, you're working time to get it. So you're working every hour to make money. And that's the only way you make money. And then if you can't work someday, or if you need to take time off or whatever, you don't make money. Right. And so this is unfortunately, I like to kind of think of it as like the biggest lie the immigrant community has been told by the American dream, right? Because people have been told, oh, you just come to this country, you work hard and you'll be rich, right? And if you look at the wealthy people in the US, yeah, they're like working hard and stuff, but they're not working 2 to 3 jobs. They're not working in construction in their 70s, like a lot of folks' parents are in this community, right? They're not training their time in like physical labor to make money. They're working smart, right? They are doing, let me go back to the slide, these 3 things. They're doing stock market investing, real estate investing, and business development, and they're having their money work for them. So what passive income is it's basically when your money is making money for you instead of you trading time for money. That looks like, okay, I'm investing in the stock market, and when I'm sleeping, my investments are growing and making money. When I'm on vacation, they're making money. When I'm hanging out with my family, they're making money. So you can be making money just through participating in the stock market and having your money grow over time by being passive, by doing nothing, just by participating. And that's what we really want to think about getting more people in the immigrant community part of, so that they can get out of this trading time for money. Because again, if you look historically at the US, like unfortunately, the US has relied on the immigrant community for labor to build this country. Like look at the railroads that were built across the US. It was built by, Chinese labor, right? That people who were taken advantage of and not given rights, right? And very underpaid. Slavery, look at, if anybody's heard of the Bracero program, this was literally how immigration law started to begin. It was one of the first immigration policies where the government would bring in people from Mexico when they needed labor, and then they would deport them all when they didn't need them anymore, like when the soldiers came home. Anyway, I get very passionate about this because it's so important to me that we're seeing more immigrants in the community who are learning how to have their money work for them and not trading time for money. It's a political act, right? And it's also how you build wealth, right? All right, problem number 2, when you're not investing, it's pretty similar to the trading time for money. It's overworking, right? So when you're trading time for money, the only way you can make more money is if you work more, right? So this is where I see a lot of people who are working 2 to 3 jobs. They've got a full-time job and a part-time job, right? Maybe they've even started a side hustle, but the side hustle is just trading time for money. And so they're still just working all the time. And so in this situation, you're working more instead of having your money work more. This is also what we can begin to get out of when we start doing investing in the stock market. And again, having our money work for us, right? Work while we're sleeping, work while we're on vacation. We need to see more immigrant families who are benefiting from this, like many Americans are. If you look at, like middle class white Americans, right? A lot of them are investing their whole time, their whole decades of working, because they are getting what's called a 401k at work, which is a retirement investment account that a lot of immigrant families aren't eligible for if they don't have a job with benefits, right? Especially if they don't have a work permit. And so while these middle class white families, Americans are working, they're building wealth through investing the whole time in their 401k. And that's how you see them retire being millionaires or retire being really comfortable because they've been building wealth all this time through investing in the stock market. And so this is what we want to see more folks in the immigrant community participating in. If anyone has questions so far, please pop it in the chat. I'd love to hear. I know I'm going through a lot of stuff so far. All right, problem number 3, when you're not investing, is living paycheck to paycheck. It's just harder to have the money you need to pay the bills, right? When you're trading time for money and you always have to work to make money and you don't have a way to be growing money. Because what investing does is it allows you to grow your savings way faster than you ever can in a bank account. And we're actually going to get into some calculator examples to show you that very clearly in a moment. The 4th problem is facing a lot of debt and having no credit score or having a low credit score. This is a little bit different than investing, but for me, it's related because again, when you're not investing your money and growing your money, you have less resources. And so when emergencies happen, like let's say there's a medical issue for someone in the family, sometimes you don't have any choice but to go put it on a credit card or go into debt or get a loan because you don't have other resources. Whereas if you had been investing, you would have had extra money growing and growing and growing all that time that you could rely on during those emergencies. That would be growing way faster than you could ever get by saving in a bank account, which again, we'll go through that in more detail with the calculator very soon. And the 5th problem with not investing, and really the worst way to build wealth, is this mindset of not making decisions, of not thinking and acting like the wealthy. And over the years, being a financial counselor, I've studied wealthy people a lot and trying to get all the lessons so I can help this community. And one of the things that's really stood out to me consistently with millionaires and wealthy people is that they make decisions quickly. And so they understand that the 2 resources in life are time and money. And time is the only resource we'll never get back, that we can never have more of. Money, we can always get more, right? If we lose our money, we can go make more, right? We can go recover from that. We can never get our time back. So they understand that very well, that time is the most precious resource. And because of that, they don't waste time making decisions, right? And when they learn about something like this and how they can be growing their wealth, they move quickly, right? And they're willing to experiment. They're willing to have a little bit of failure so that they can learn quicker and learn how to do it and get on the right track of success and wealth building. And so with investing, a lot of people I talk to in this community are, because they don't know a lot about it, because they're the first in their family, because they didn't have parents who were investing when they were growing up. There's a lot of fear, very understandably, right, about investing. And there's a lot of let me think about it, let me go back and forth, and then nothing ever happens. And then what happens with that is they miss out on years where they could be building wealth, because with investing, truly the way you build wealth is through time. It's through time participating in the market so that you have time for your money to grow. Because, investing is all about, if you do it in a sustainable, smart, responsible way, when you're not trying to beat the market and have really high risk and gamble with your money, but you're just trying to benefit from the growth rates that happen when you do kind of traditional investing. When you do that, it's literally just about time. The earlier you start, the more money you make. And the calculator is going to make that more clear in a moment. So yeah, the worst way to not be building wealth is not making a decision to get started with investing. And here's some things I see a lot for folks who, are trying to figure this out, trying to, just figure it out on their own without really guidance, that aren't really working for folks. So searching constantly on Google and YouTube, searching at 2 a.m. We actually get a lot of people who will book free consultations with us. We offer free consults at 2 a.m. I'll wake up and see these emails coming in from 2 a.m. and they tell me I've been searching for years for how to do this, how to invest. You're the first time, we saw anyone who, said they could explain it for immigrants, and they've just been searching and searching and not getting answers. So this is just another way you lose time, right? Being able to figure this stuff out. Then following financial influencers on social media, like Instagram and TikTok. This is actually great to do to start learning about it, but you're not going to actually learn how to do this and get started just by like following people. Like I really see people need structured guidance. They need step-by-step how to get started right away so they don't lose time and they can just get started investing. So a lot of folks are missing out on getting started by just trying to like, sort of passively like learn without actually committing to it and just sort of scrolling here and there. And then finally going through all the personal finance books, blogs, and podcasts. So this is what happened to us. This is what I was doing for years. And I honestly wasted years trying to figure this all out because there wasn't information in these resources that applied to my family having an immigrant husband, and it just often made me more confused and overwhelmed because a lot of things didn't apply to our situation, right? Like there was no one talking about how to budget for immigration lawyers or budget for emergency international travel to visit family abroad or things like that. So what you need to do to get this rolling and not lose time with investing is to actually learn how the money game works in the US and then go play the game. And learning stock market investing specifically of all the types of investing is the easiest and most common way to build passive income and generational wealth in the US. There are those other things I mentioned too, like real estate and business, but those do take more resources and time to get started. Stock market investing, guess how much it costs to get started with investing? $1. You can get started with investing $1. A lot of people think they need a lot of money to get started. You don't. You literally just need $1 to get started. And then, yeah, just go for it. So let's look at some calculators. So first, I want to show you what happens in a bank account with investing. A bank account with saving, right? When you're not investing. This you can just type bank rate calculator. This will come up if you want to play around. So I put in the example, someone who's starting with $0 in a bank account, they start saving $300 every month. And they do it for 7 years with an APY, which is the interest rate of 0.01. What is the APY? What is the interest rate? So the interest rate is okay, with credit cards, it's bad because it means you're paying money to the credit cards. With bank accounts and investing, it's a good thing. You want a higher interest rate because that's the free money you get basically when you invest. Most bank accounts offer no interest rate or a really low interest rate, like 0.01, right? Most people we work with, when we start working with them, I ask them how much interest they're getting in their bank account. Almost always they don't even know. And then when they check, it's like 0 or 0.01. So if you were saving $300 a month for 7 years in an account like that, you would end up at the end with over $25,000, which is awesome. That's a great way to be saving. But look how much interest here was actually made, $8.72. So after 7 years of saving your money, you only made $8.72, right? So you're basically getting nothing. Now let's look at what happens. I'm going to show you when you did the exact same thing. You put away $300 a month for 7 years, but you did it in an investing account, right? So you can see here, start with 0, we do it 7 years. The return rate, which is the same thing as like the APY interest rate, I'm going to put 8% here. The reason I put 8% is when you invest in all of the stock market, all of the companies in the US, we know over the past 100 years, the interest rate is on average between 7 to 12% return of free money you get, which is extremely high. And so I put 8% because that's like a conservative average of that. And then just like with the bank, here we're doing $300 a month. So what happens, $300 a month. What happens with investing, instead of making $8 something after 7 years, investing, because of that 8%, you're making over 8,000 just by doing it in an investment account instead of a savings in the bank. And that leaves you with over $33,000 instead of the $25,000 that you would have if you had been in a bank account. So you're making basically $8,000 that you would not have made if you stayed in a bank account. Now let's go back to the bank calculator here. So this is the same example, except I'm going to change it from 7 years to 10 years here. You can see that's the only thing I've changed. It's this is an investment still, not bank. So yeah, this is investing. We're changing it from 7 to 10 years, still 8% return rate, $300 a month. Now here, when it was 7 years, we made $8,000, ended up with 33,000. If we add just the 3 more years, make it 10 years, everything else the same, we made 18,000 over 54,000 at the end. So we basically made 10,000 more. We went from 8 to 18,000 just by adding 3 years. The reason I like to show this is because it shows you what the concept of compound interest is. Compound interest is, with investing, your money grows exponentially. So as you earn free interest, your interest earns interest, and then your interest earns interest, and so on. So the money you're making is just growing and growing. And that's how in just 3 years, we went from $8,000 to $18,000 in free interest. And you can see here the little pie chart when it was for 7 years, right? 76% of that was the contributions, what we were putting in, that $300 a month. Whereas when we did 10 years, right, only 67% was. We started having more of the interest growing. It went from 24% to 33%. Now this is going to get even crazier now, because I'm going to show you what it looks like for 45 years. If you're investing for 45 years, like a lifetime, right? Same $300 a month, right? An 8% return. This is how people become millionaires in retirement, just by investing consistently in the stock market. So here, the ending balance is almost $1.5 million, right? And look how much of it was interest. So actually 89% we can see in the dark blue is now interest, over $1 million right here. And that's just because of time. That's what I was explaining with time in the market is so powerful, because the only thing we changed here is we went from 7 years to 10 years to now 45 years. And that time in the market allowed the account to grow this much. So this is why investing is all about just starting as soon as possible, so you can ride that wave of growth and get that passive income. Now look at what would have happened if you had done this in a bank for 45 years with the 0.1% interest instead of 8%. Here, the interest would have been $364, leaving you with $162K. So $364 if it was a bank account versus $1,279,730.09 if it had been an investment account. The only difference here is what type of account. So this is why, again, it's so powerful to be investing. And you can play around with this calculator. Just go to Google and type in investment calculator, or go to calculator.net/investment calculator, and it will help you see the impact here. All right, I hope that was helpful to get a sense of why this is so powerful. So why you need to learn how to invest and grow money on your own, right? And really learn how to do this is so that you can, for the rest of your life, be investing and managing your own investment accounts, right? So first of all, you're going to save a lot of money, because the financial planners, when you go that route, they end up taking a percentage every year, and it can sound small, it can sound like 1 or 2%, but over a lifetime, there's studies showing that that can end up being hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you're going to keep all that money if you just learn how to do it yourself. And it's not that complicated. That's exactly what we help with and teach folks with. It's also not something you want to be uninformed about. Personally, I wouldn't want to have no idea what's going on with my money and not understand it. It's just too important for my family and my family's future, right? To not understand what's going on. It's all about being empowered and being able to build that generational wealth and access financial freedom. So next, I want to talk a little bit about the success path that we look at for immigrant families building wealth, and to help you guys sort of see where you might be at and what the next stage is, so you can start taking steps to get on track for building wealth. So the first stage, unfortunately, is when people are just like hustling and broke. So they're totally trading time for money, they're getting underpaid, they're overworking, all that stuff we talked about, and they're just getting by like barely paycheck to paycheck. This is definitely where we were when my husband first immigrated from the country, and we didn't know any of this stuff. We were both in underpaid jobs and living paycheck to paycheck, struggling to pay the bills. It sucked, right? The next stage is stuck and overwhelmed. So this is when you kind of start to realize there's a problem here. Like, I need to get my money together. I need to learn about finances, because this isn't working and I'm stressed out and anxious all the time about money. you hit this barrier when you get started where you're like, oh my God, this is so complicated. How am I going to learn all this? Right? It's so overwhelming. There's so much information out there, and you often feel stuck. And that's a really common phase. So if that's you right now and you're at that stage, just want to say, I understand you have been there. It's really frustrated, but keep going because it's worth it. And when you learn some of this stuff that we're talking about today, you're going to be so empowered. And I can confidently say it's totally possible for you because we've seen so many families we've worked with be able to learn this stuff. So I really get some water. Woo, a lot of information to share, y'all. Okay, the next stage here is accomplished, but no wealth to show for it. So this is when we see folks who like have made investments in themselves. Let's say they've invested in getting a college education, right? Or they've invested in, doing trainings and stuff that helps them get a good salary job, right? And they're like, more stable than they've ever been. And they're probably making more than anyone in their family ever has before, but they're not having any wealth to show for it, right? They don't have investments. They don't have a retirement plan. They're not having passive income grow, right? And so it's really hard to really build wealth this way just from like trying to save in a bank account, because we saw those numbers, how little you make in a bank account. And so the next step is to then really dive in and learn about finances and become empowered financially. And so this is when we come in with Immigrant Finance School and we help our students get to the stage of becoming what we call a money systems slayer. When you set up the systems to really like manage all of these processes we're talking about, with managing your money, budgeting, building a credit score, making sure you're getting the highest interest in your bank account, learning to invest, opening your investment accounts, growing your investments, getting tax breaks on your investments, buying real estate, preparing to buy real estate, like saving up the down payment, preparing to start a business, all that. Setting up the systems is how you make that transition to get you to a place where you can be actually building wealth. So that's what we love helping people with, is kind of transition from these first 3 phases to setting up their money systems and having that whole system in place where they're in a position to be building wealth going forward the rest of their lives. And then the last stage, which we just like absolutely love helping people with, is when they can become the money magnet, when they really understand how this all works, how to really be focusing their money and time on wealth building, how to be really participating in wealth building activities like investing, real estate, business, and building a business that's going to be scalable, that's not trading time for money, right? That is when folks can start getting into the money magnet phase, where they can just keep bringing in more, which allows them to then invest more, which allows them to grow their investments faster and meet their other financial goals faster, like buy a home, pay off debt, support family members, etc. Next up, this is the wealth building process. So I like to think about these 3 key areas for wealth building. The first one is learning to actually manage money. This is really core and important. I don't have time to go into this too much in detail, but if you make a lot of money but you don't know how to manage it, it's not going to make you wealthy. So you got to learn to manage the money. Then it's investing and setting up the systems to build wealth I started talking about. And then finally, increasing income. When we have all these 3 things going, that's when you can start to be in a place where you can build generational wealth. And on this slide, I just want to go through a little bit more what it looks like in detail. So when you're learning to manage money, you're basically putting your goals in charge, right? Your goals are shaping your financial actions and moving you forward to the future, to your goals, right? When you're investing and setting up the systems to build wealth, you're building the passive income streams. You're having your money start working for you instead of you just trading time for money. And then when you increase income, you are scaling your cash flow. You're building ways to make more cash coming in so that you can go put it in those investment systems, right? Now let's look at these intersections here. Like what happens when you're just doing 1 or 2 of these, but not all 3, right? Okay, so if we're learning to manage money, like we're learning to budget and build our credit score and all that, and then we're investing, right? But we're not increasing income. This is when you're in a position of just counting pennies, basically, because at a certain point, you can build out all the systems, have the skills to manage it all. But if there's not enough like money coming in, if you're not focusing on increasing income, you're just going to be basically counting pennies, trying to maximize the money you have, right? And then you hit a wall. There's not much else you can do with it if you're not increasing income. However, if you are just learning to manage money and increase income, but you're not investing, then you're what I like to call the banker's fool. In this situation, you're basically like managing it and making more, but you're not growing the money. So basically the bank is making money off of you because if you're not investing, you're probably just having that money in like a bank account. And what happens is the bank makes money then because they go lend out that money. They make money off it. They give people loans, right? And then you're not making money. You're in that example, the calculator of just the bank account getting 0.01 interest or whatever. Maybe you're getting higher interest. Maybe you've got a high yield savings account, but you're not getting the rate you would get with investing. So the bank, you're the fool of the banker in that situation. And then lastly, if you are increasing income and investing, right, but you're not managing the money, you're not going to build wealth either, right? So this is where you see people, what I like to say, living high paycheck to paycheck. Like they're making a lot of money, they've got a high salary, but they're not retaining that money, they're not holding on to it. And essentially, that money is like coming in and going out, but they're not managing it. They're not budgeting. They're not learning how to save, right? So they might be investing some of it, but they don't actually know how to handle the money. So we need all three of these working together so that you can build generational wealth instead of just one or two. So take a look at this, think about it, and try to see which area you're in. It's really helpful to figure that out. Like it's not a problem. It's you can't make changes if you don't have the awareness of the where things are, right? So there's a saying, awareness precedes change. If you can spot, okay, I'm in this situation, or I'm in this situation, or I'm in none of these, then you know what you need to work on and your next step. And that's how you get to where you want to go and get in a position where you can build wealth. So reach out to us if you're also not sure about where you land on this. And I'm happy to do a call. We offer free 30-minute consults, and I can help you kind of pinpoint where you are and where it makes sense to focus on next. Okay, a couple other things, and I have to admit, I'm not sure what time the webinar is capped for, so we might get cut off. If that happens, reach out to me and I'll continue sharing more. Let me put in the chat before I forget, actually, the link for our free 30-minute consult, just in case we get cut off. There you go. And also my email is hello@immigrantfinance.com. So we'd love to hear from you. And I will keep going until they cut me off. So, okay, now I want to talk about the 3 biggest blocks to getting started with investing. So these are the areas we see people get tripped up, get stuck, where they want to be investing. They get it's important. They understand that this is how they're going to build wealth, but they get blocked for one of these things. So number 1 is inaction, analysis paralysis. This is when they're like, okay, I have to research every possible aspect of investing to fully understand it so that I can feel comfortable doing it. And then they never do it because they're never going to really feel comfortable until they just start trying and applying, what they're learning. Or they kind of get in their head and they, are like, have all the fears and doubts come in, like, oh, my abuela told me that investing is like gambling and it's not safe, so I shouldn't do that, even if they know it's actually more unsafe to not be investing because their money is not making money in a bank. If anything, your money in a bank account is very much losing money because of inflation. So inflation is this idea that the value of the dollar decreases over time. So, and it's actually been really high in the past few years. So like, if your money's in a bank account, it's losing value every day. And the only way you can keep up with inflation or even beat inflation is if you're investing your money in one of those 3 ways: stock market, real estate, or business, or combination. That's the only way we can beat inflation and have our money keep growing with time. So yeah, inaction is a big, big problem of just not starting. Block number 2 is scarcity thoughts. So scarcity thoughts are like extremely common. We all have them as humans. even after years and years of working on my mindset around money, like I still experience this too, for sure. Sometimes it's never going to go away. We're human, but some of us are like living in all scarcity, and scarcity is essentially this idea of there's never enough, I'm never going to be safe financially. Like no matter what I do, something bad could happen. I can lose everything. And this is really common in the immigrant community because a lot of folks have experienced that, or their family members have, or that's why their parents had to flee their home country, right? Like I know personally, my great grandparents were refugees who came to this country fleeing for their lives, right? They arrived at Ellis Island and they had nothing. They were completely poor. They didn't have a dollar to their names. And so that stuff gets passed down. Even though I'm 3 generations down, it gets passed down in the family. So I've had to work on that a lot, and it's just a lot of like fear and anxiety about money and about unknowns with money, which makes investing really hard if you're really living from this place, because there is uncertainty with investing. There are no guarantees, right? There's a saying, there's no reward without risk. So there is some risk involved with investing, but there's also, again, a tremendous amount of risk with not investing, because it is guaranteed your money will lose value in a bank account due to inflation. At least with investing, we know, although in the short term, it might go up and down in the short term with economic trends, in the long term, we know with traditional investing, it's constantly increasing at a rate of 7 to 12% over the past 100 years. So that's like, when I learned that, it changed everything for me, because that's the most kind of reassurance I think we can ever get when it comes with money. And so, yeah, shifting your mindset to think about not only what could I lose, but also like, what are the opportunities? Like I would lose if I don't do this, right? So if I don't invest, what opportunity am I going to lose? What's all the money I could be making, that $1 million plus we saw in the calculator from 45 years of investing? Like I'm going to miss out on that, right? Thinking about that instead of, oh, what could I lose with the money I have now if I invest, right? And it's really about not understanding this stuff with inflation and market volatility. Like people just, they don't get, and it's nobody's fault. Like this is not taught in school. And this is why we're so passionate about getting this information out there. We're not taught that it's actually normal and expected in the stock market for it to go up and down in the short term. It's cyclical. It's a cycle, just like the seasons, just like, women with their periods, right? Like the weather, like things change, right? It's energy moving, and it's normal. But again, when you zoom in the short term, that's when you see that. But the long term is a increasing rate over time that we have seen for over 100 years at 7 to 12%, super high return, right? So getting that's part of the education piece of when you learn this stuff, and this is what we love teaching our students at Immigrant Finance School. When you learn this stuff, then it's a really different situation, because you're more informed, you're more empowered, and when you know better, you do better, right? The third biggest block is imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is basically like doubting your worth and believing you can't do something, that you're not good enough to do something, that's not possible for someone like you. And this is something that comes up a lot with folks we talk to in the community who just, can't see themselves as an investor, even if they want to, even if they understand this is how they could be building wealth. They haven't seen people like them investing, right? And so there's this kind of belief underneath it all sometimes of like, well, maybe it's too good to be true, right? Or like, maybe it won't work out for me, or maybe I'm not allowed to do this or something. And that's something we really want to encourage you all to push back on and question, right? And be courageous about, because you can do this. And I can tell you, we've worked with over 150 families who've done it, and it's been scary, and they've had to be brave, right? And almost all of them are the first in their families to be investing. But when you do it and you take this step, you become the leader in your family financially. You change the family going forward for generations. Most of our students, after they get their accounts open with investing and they learn how to do it, then they open accounts for their parents, then they open accounts for their siblings. the whole family dynamic changes going forward because everybody goes from trading time for money to having passive income start building. So the number one way to be building wealth is just to decide to start investing. And we talked about with wealthy folks, this is something they understand very well, is making decisions quickly, taking action, because time is the number one resource that they'll never get back. And so I'd much rather see folks, like, instead of just over analyzing whether or not to do it or trying to learn everything for this theoretical time when they're going to feel confident, right, to start, like, just start, get support, get help, right? Like, there's lots and lots of people who are here to support and teach with finances, right? It doesn't have to be with us. Like, find someone you feel comfortable with who can empower you with this knowledge so that you don't have to lose any more time. And I'll give you a couple examples of some of our students we've worked with, just to give you an idea of what happens when you do decide to take that step and take your money game to the next level and start investing. So the first example I'll give is Felly. So Felly became the first investor ever in her family. She helped her family members all start budgeting and investing after she learned how to do it with us. And then she also started a side hustle business, doing like outdoor hiking, guiding, so that she could make extra money on top of her job and invest more. Danny is another one of our students. He opened his first credit card and started building his credit score through Immigrant Finance School. He also started his investment accounts and opened retirement accounts, both for his parents and his siblings. So they all started investing and changed everything going forward. He also started a side hustle as a notary to make extra cash as well, to increase his investments and get that momentum building faster. Yasmin is another one of our students. So when she first started working with us, she was getting underpaid and overworking at Subway, not having any time really to be with her 3 kids, right? Living paycheck to paycheck, facing a lot of debt. And within 1 year, she turned everything around. She built her credit, paid off all her debt, started investing. She maxed out all of the tax saving investment accounts to lower her taxes. So retirement accounts, college investment accounts for her children. And she also started a business of the business her parents had tried to start and failed because they didn't have the information about how to do it as an immigrant. And she was able to start hitting 6 figures within about 1.5 years in her business. Now has more time with her children. So it's really powerful what this stuff does for people if you just take the decision to get started and not waste any more time. So the number one way, again, to build wealth, ask yourself, do you want to keep losing money, keeping your money in a bank account, right? Not making any interest, right? Losing money to inflation, or do you want to get started investing and building wealth? That's the question we have for you today. We urge you to get started and take this step for yourselves, whatever that looks like, so that you can, contribute to your family's generational wealth building and change how things look in this country for immigrants, right? And so you might be asking, well, how do I get started? So again, there's lots of resources online. Of course, I will say that we have resources as well. So go to immigrantfinance.com. We've got a blog up there with a ton of resources. We've got a podcast with a lot of stuff on investing. And then, of course, we have Immigrant Finance School, our signature program I'll talk about in a moment. But I want to share with you all first a couple bonuses we have to offer for those of you who joined the webinar, available here, nowhere else. So thank you if you've made it this far to be listening. We really appreciate you listening to this whole presentation. I hope it's been valuable for you. The first bonus I want to share is a new masterclass we have on how to overcome the fear of investing. And for participants in this webinar, you get 57% off. So it's normally going to be $47. We're offering it for $27 for folks who sign up within 1 week of listening to this webinar. And this masterclass is really meant for people who are having that fear with getting started, who need a little bit more support and encouragement to take that step, which is really common and really understandable. That's why we have created this. And it's all going to be about how to kind of like work through those fears, work through the mindset, right? Before you even get to the practical nitty-gritty of like opening the account and learning about investing, like how do we just get to that point? So it's meant to serve you all. It's super affordable price, and we really hope that if you're someone who's having fear, you would consider and jump on this amazing opportunity that will be available only here. And then for those of you who are like, I don't need to like get over my fear. I'm convinced, I'm ready to get started. How do I do this? Immigrant Finance School is our signature wealth building program where we cover investing very in depth. Everything we've been talking about today, we actually go way into detail of like practically how to do all this, how to get the accounts open, how to understand what accounts to open, how to understand the fees, the way the pros and cons of different investments, look at their performance, how to, analyze their performance, how to actually purchase them, like everything, how to automate it. It's all in there. But in addition to investing, we have a lot of other topics. It is a wealth building program. So if you go back to that Venn diagram I had of the things with managing money and building systems to grow wealth and increasing income, like all of that is in there. It's 14 modules. It's extremely comprehensive. And this is the main way that we help people. So the bonuses that we have for folks who are in this webinar, if you enroll in the program within 48 hours, you're going to get some amazing bonuses. So you're going to get 2 bonus coaching sessions, which are incredible. These coaching sessions are really where we help you like break through any barriers you're facing, whether it's mindset or not understanding something practically or like needing to talk out the investing stuff more. We help you really be able to take that step forward through the coaching. And then here's some of our resources. So we have the Immigrant Finance Black Book, which is a guide to all the best bank, credit card investing, and financial institutions for immigrants. So you know exactly what accounts to open for all of these things. There's also a workshop on organizing your finances so that you can get everything organized, get those systems going, get the tools going to reach your financial goals faster. And then finally, you'll also get a bonus access to our money mindset masterclass. So you can learn strategies to move past any of those fears, doubts about money mindset, things getting in the way that are holding you back from taking action. So you can apply to join us at immigrantfinanceschool.com or just send me an email at hello@immigrantfinance.com. Let me know you're interested and we can get you more details and all set up so that you can get this bonus to get access to all of this if you're able to enroll within 48 hours. So thank you all so much. It's been so fantastic to have you here and get to talk more about investing. Regardless, we'd love to connect with you and support you and share all the amazing free resources we have. So again, check out our website, immigrantfinance.com, for lots of free guides and blogs and podcast stuff. The podcast is on there. Also subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever. It's called the Finance, Business, and Purpose Podcast. And I talk a lot about investing in this in addition to other financial, business, and purpose topics. Lots of awesome guests on there too, sharing their stories. On Instagram and Facebook, we're immigrant.finance, and YouTube and LinkedIn is Immigrant Finance. So check us out. And I see we've got some questions in here. I thank you so much for being here, everyone. So Jesus Madrid asked about, would you recommend to create an account with Fidelity? Fidelity is a good option. They are one of the investment firms that do accept ITIN numbers to open accounts. So that is a good option. A lot of people have success with that. And then I see a comment from Tomas. Thank you for being here, Tomas. He says Adina knows what she's talking about and has a gift for presenting complex sounding in understandable terms and graphics. I help my nonverbal autistic son through her class. He'd just get started and especially presume competence. Oh, he's saying just get started and presume competence, Tomas. Thank you so much for saying that. Really appreciate that. Does anybody else have any questions or comments before we wrap up? If so, please put it in the chat. And I'm, again, just so grateful for y'all being here. I will, again, put the link in the chat to book a free consult for us with us. And then I'll put the link to actually apply to Immigrant Finance School if you want to get that bonus. And then lastly, I'm going to add the masterclass I mentioned. That's just $27 for folks who sign up in the next week on how to overcome the fear of investing masterclass. So thank you so much. And I'm really grateful for y'all being here. Have a great rest of your night and take care.